Everyday people working 9 to 5, saving up that money, trying to survive, investing in the future, trying to be wise, through loving money heroes. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nik Johnson, host of Everyday Money Heroes, and I've reached early retirement. I'm here to provide information on how to obtain financial independence and inspire you through sharing stories of everyday people who are turning knowledge into freedom.
That hustle, always reaching for the sky. We're gonna be money heroes, never gonna shy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Money Heroes, where we provide information and inspiration to people of all ages to take control of their financial journey. I'm your host, Nik Johnson, and today we have Aja McClanahan. And we're excited to get into our discussion with her. But first, I want to thank all of our subscribers here on YouTube and our followers on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much for following us. It's important that you all follow and subscribe. That way it just lets the algorithm know that you're finding value here. If it's your first time here, we thank you for coming and we hope that you will return soon. So now back to our guest, Aja.
Aja.
I'll get it right. Aja McClanahan. She is a
Yes.
freelance personal finance writer with an incredible story of resilience and financial empowerment. She paid it off over $120,000 in debt by living on one salary and strategically moving to a low-cost neighborhood in Chicago. From there, she stayed home with her kids, managing their entertainment careers, and invested in real estate with no debt, on track to becoming a work-optional millionaire by 45. However, life took an unexpected turn when she went through a high conflict divorce, leaving behind her 401k, pension, real estate, and business while assuming significant debt. Despite these challenges, Aja has rebuilt her financial life, purchasing 3 new properties, putting her kids through private school and college debt-free, and continuing to build wealth without a traditional job so she can remain present for her family. Now living in Puerto Rico and planning to move to the EU, she's a testament of perseverance, financial literacy, and the power of starting over. All right. Thank you, Aja.
That was a great intro. Did I give that to you or
Um, you provided me the inspiration for it, so I'm happy you liked
okay. I'm like,
it.
that sounds great. I need to copy that.
Yes, ma'am. I will be more than happy to copy and send that over to you, ma'am. You can use it wherever you want to. It'll be my gift to you. So, welcome today, Audrey. We are excited to have you here. And here on Everyday Money Heroes, as I said before from the top, we'd like to provide information and inspiration. So you are definitely, you check both of those boxes. So first of all, you paid off $120,000 in debt on one income. So what I'd like to start here is like asking what were the most effective money saving strategies you used during that time, and how can others apply them to their financial journey as well?
Sure. So I guess one of the biggest things, this is like an umbrella strategy, and it's basically be willing to humble yourself. And
Okay.
so for us, that meant cutting out like certain luxuries, like cable, getting the newest, latest, greatest car. We were living in the suburbs and we got
Oh.
quote unquote demoted to the inner city. We moved like literally to the middle of the hood, moved into a house with bullet holes in the back door. So that's
Oh,
a real
wow.
story.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember going to it's a church pantry, but it wasn't for like, I don't want to make it seem like we were taking the place of people who really needed it, but it was kind of, they called it like a co-op, but it's like we would get these, in exchange for volunteer work, we would get food and things like that.
Mhm.
So we did a lot of like penny pinching, budgeting things, even though during that time, and when I say we, I was married, I'm not married anymore. So at the time, I'm speaking of my spouse who I was married to at that time. We were able to figure out how to do things like travel. At the time, I was working as a database administrator from home,
Mhm.
and I had clients that would send me to different conferences, and then we would just book travel like on the coattails of those conferences. So we'd been to like Florida and Vegas and San Antonio, and so
Mhm.
we did travel very inexpensively. So the point I'm trying to get at is like we just cut back our lifestyle a lot, and then I also figured out how to do like little side hustles from home. My kids got into acting and entertainment, so that took off some of the pressure to have to save for their college. They were able to do it themselves
Oh, nice.
through their work that they would get. So yeah, and then just having so the overarching thing, I guess, is like just be willing to humble yourself and step back your lifestyle as needed, and then also have a plan. We use Dave Ramsey's baby step the 7 baby steps where you like get an emergency fund, then you do a budget, you do the
Mhm.
debt snowball. So we use that. And it took us a while to get there, because we had some interruptions. Like I had a baby, we moved into the house that we had to fix up. But eventually we paid off all our debt. And that's when I started my blog, Principles of Increase. And then
Mhm.
from there, got the attention of some editors in the personal finance space and started writing for other websites. And that's pretty much what I still do today. I still write about personal finance content.
Oh, wow, that's a great story, Aja. You mentioned that you were a DBA, and so well, database administrator. So I have a history in databases as well. So I understand what you're saying as far as like the travel. I used to coordinate my trips during the summer. I used to call it the Johnson family vacation because I
Oh, cool.
did. And so I knew if I had some trips, like okay, I was like the kids are out of school, and I got my per diem, so we will all be going on a trip. So
Yeah, the per right, exactly. Yeah, I'd even like not eat during the day because I'm like, I want to do a
yes.
steakhouse in the evening, use my per diem. So yeah, I've even taken kids on conferences with me to like work booths.
Oh
So
yeah, no, that's
it was
great.
definitely a family affair, and I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, they used to call me at work the breakfast diva because I would not stay at a hotel if it did not include a breakfast. I was like, no, I was like, listen, I got a certain amount of money I could spend all day on this trip, and I ain't gonna be wasting on breakfast. So I'm not booking a hotel unless
Yeah, I
it has.
remember those days. I
Yes,
remember those
yes,
days.
they will call me the breakfast diva. I will not do that. But you also mentioned about humbling yourself, and I think that as a society, and I know this is just kind of my personal opinion, but I think we look around, we might see it. Um, we struggle with delayed gratification as
Sure.
far as, okay, sometimes humbling yourself means that, okay, I may not be able to get this new car right now because I need to pay off this debt. If
Yeah,
I have something that is safe, it gets me from point A to point B. It might not have all of the bells and whistles. However, I understand that this is for a greater or larger cause. So I need to
sure.
go ahead and humble myself, as you said before, and just be willing to go ahead and just wait a little while to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. That's going to help you so you don't spend up all your resources just trying to look good. But I will say though, even though I think that is a great place to start, I also leave room for eventually being able to move up, right? So
Mhm.
you start out with your point A to point B car, but I think it's okay as long as everything is done in decent in order and it doesn't cut into your overall wealth building strategy. I think it is okay. I'm a believer, so I tend to get signals from God to level up my lifestyle and my thinking when it comes to money from time to time. Again, within reason, nothing that's too extravagant. So yeah, I think there's room to do both. But when you're trying to accomplish something, then you may have to humble yourself for a time.
Yeah, outstanding. Yeah, it mentions as far as like, especially when you first starting off, you made reference to Dave Ramsey. And kind of
Yeah.
when you like first starting off on those steps, it is important that, okay, you know what, this is a temporary situation. If I get
Hmm.
myself where I need to go to, then I can, kind of get those, I can graduate from needs to wants.
There you
You
go.
know,
There you go.
it
All
is
in
just
due
being mindful of
time.
that. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that, Aja. Also, you made reference to being previously married. And so after experiencing a financial setback, such as a divorce, you rebuilt your wealth from scratch. What mindset shift and practical steps helped you to recover? And what advice would you give other people who might be going through a similar thing?
Oh gosh, that is a big question. Let me see if I can break it down so that it makes sense. Honestly, for me, and this may sound kind of like abstract and like, I don't know, pop psychology, but it really for me, I had to prioritize my mental and emotional health because if you don't have access to your faculties and reasoning, you're not going to go anywhere. So
Mm,
for me, and again, I'm a believer, so I have conversations with the Lord. And I was really ready to be like, let me jump back into work, go, full force like an ox, but I was not mentally capable of handling those kinds of burdens. So there is a concept in the Bible of Sabbath, of rest. Even the
mm,
Bible talks about in Hebrews, laboring to enter into that rest. And that's an act of faith where you can say, Lord, I trust more in you and the finished work on the cross than I trust in my own efforts. So for me, and everyone may have their own story and their own relationship with God and their own path, but for me, I had to listen to God when he said, I really need you to take time off of everything that you do and take care of your mental and emotional health because you went through some trauma that you don't even understand how deep it is. And I hate using that word because I feel like it's overused and people are like, oh, I was abused, there was trauma. But in some cases, that is just the fact. We live in a society where cultural unfortunately is devolving into where people just are mean to one another and people do mean things and we have broken families and unfortunately I was part of that cycle and entered back into it. And so I had to consciously in 2020, I was newly separated and I was going to get back out there into the workforce and do all these things. And I felt the voice of the Lord tell me, like, no, this is your year to rest. You must get therapy. You must rebuild. And it's kind of like this idea of working with an axe, right? If you have a dull blade, you're going to put in a lot of effort and guess what? Not get anything done.
right.
So I spent 2020 resting. I didn't work, I didn't write, and I was like so scared because I'm like, I have no income, I have no money, but God
Mm,
made a way.
mm,
And
yeah.
I will be honest, I financed some of my lifestyle with credit cards, but I don't have any regrets about that because the way I was able to rebuild was really miraculous and supernatural. And I'm still rebuilding. I'm still digging out of debt. I'll be sharing that journey online soon. Some of the strides I've been making in that area. But if you're in a situation where you found like you're behind, you're starting over, you have to recover from something along those lines, I think it's helpful to really take some time. You don't have to take a year off and do nothing. Everybody may not be able to do that. But I think it is helpful to take some time to examine your mindset that keeps you stuck in a rut, right? Because if you don't do that, no budget, no saving, no whatever, penny pinching, none of that is going to help you because you're going to find yourself back in the same situation. So that's if it's at all possible for you. And I don't have any prescription on what is the best way. For me, it was prayer, meditation, and reading the Bible because the Bible has great money concepts. But during this time, there was at a point I had three different therapists actually I was seeing
Oh, wow.
because I'm like, I can't repeat this cycle. I like have to sit down and fix what's wrong with me, or else that self-sabotage will just enter in
Mm,
and you'll keep having to start over again. So
mm.
I know that's probably not the answer you wanted on a money show, but for
Oh,
me, it
no.
really was a life-changing thing to step back and be like,
Mm,
wait,
yeah.
let me
No,
build on a good foundation.
no, Aja, that's very much appropriate because one of the first few episodes I did on this channel was about mind state and
Yeah,
understanding that if your mind's not right, you're not going to be able to do anything else. So I think that's very appropriate. And you just speak to self-care. And you spoke about your belief in what grounds you. What we have to understand is that you can't pour out an empty cup. So you have to make
there you
sure
go.
that you're full. And so
Yes,
we have to make sure that you're right. Then also look within yourselves to see, okay, what lessons can be learned from this previous situation so that I don't find myself in that situation again. And just like any house, it starts with a firm foundation. And so you got to make
there
sure
you
that
go.
you are correct. So once you start
Yeah,
over, you want to make sure that, hey, you know what, I can learn from what I did before. And I tell people all the time, you might not have all the answers, but you know what didn't work out.
there you go.
So let's not do what didn't
Exactly.
work out before. No, I can do
Yeah.
something new that didn't work out, but I'm not going to do the same thing again that didn't work out before and expect something different to happen. So that's extremely
Exactly. And
important.
and if you don't mind, just to expound on that a little bit, because I think
Mhm.
it'll be helpful. Really, a lot of times we attack money from the symptoms that we see. We attack our money issues when money is really, it is a spiritual concept. And so money and the way we handle money is a reflection of how well or unwell we are on the inside.
Mm,
So I think it does do a great service to people to start there. So,
mm,
I also want to add, like, don't stop everything and be like, forget it, I'm not going to budget, pay off debt. I would say maybe you start the process, and if you find that you're having difficulties, use those points of reflection to use them as introspection to look inward and say, "Well, I said I was going to budget this way, but I didn't keep this promise to myself. What happened?" And so
mm.
that's an effective way too. So I don't want anyone to think that you have to stop everything you're doing and take off 5 years for therapy and then fix your money situation. No, get in motion, and as you move, make sure you make space for reflection and introspection. We have so many ways to be distracted these days that people don't really have to think about what's
Mm.
going on with them. And so I would just encourage anyone listening, get in motion. And then as you have opportunities to reflect, definitely take advantage of those.
That is sage advice. Thank you very much, Aja. Appreciate that. Um, Another thing that kind of crossed my mind as I was going through and looking at your story, Aja, is that you've designed a life where you can raise your kids, you invest in real estate, and you travel the world all without a traditional 9 to 5. How can people break free of the paycheck to paycheck cycle and start building a life on their own terms? What are your thoughts about that?
So I will say there's two approaches, right? So one approach says that, okay, you've been working on your job for 20 years, you've been saving in your 401k, maybe you have some assets, you're ready to launch out and be job free, I guess. So that's one way to do it. And the other way to do it is just to jump and hope and hope that something catches you. And I mean, I think there's pros and cons to each approaches, and it depends on what your tolerance is for risk. I
Mm,
personally have, for whatever reason, a super high tolerance for risk. I have done
mm.
literally some of the craziest, weirdest things that I'm still not ready to talk about. I
Oh,
would say, but I will say most of them have worked out well for me, all
great.
just because I'm like, you know what? I'll try it. I'll see. And again, I think because I'm a believer, faith is a big part of my journey. So, yes, they look like big risks to other people, but for me, they're not as big because I know that I have the creator of the heavens and the earth backing me should I
Mm,
make a mistake. And again, this is not me just being like, I'm going to do something foolish. I'm not going to, jump off a roof with no, yeah, or jump out of a plane with no parachute. No, we're talking
mhm,
about things that I have thought about, have a little level of planning, but not always, I don't always have the details. So the question
mm,
is, how can you break out of that cycle? I think it comes down to beginning to build confidence in yourself.
mm, mhm,
And if you're a believer, I don't know what the audience makeup is, but if you're a
mhm,
believer, then that would also be confidence in your ability to hear from God, have a relationship with him and work with him. So that's something that I've built for many years now. So when I'm taking on a project, I'm like, okay, Lord, it's me and you. And I've had many successes in that area. So I just build one success on top of the other. So if you're not a believer or you don't have a way to kind of like grasp this concept, I would say one thing you can do is start by just showing up for yourself, make promises to
mm,
yourself. If you say you're going to be someplace at 8 o'clock and PM, be there. That's one way to just be a person of your word. Be
mhm,
somebody who tells the truth to yourself and others. Set goals for yourself. Lose that weight. Wake up early in the morning. So just do little things that builds confidence in your ability to keep promises to yourself. That's one
mm,
way to start. And then when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I think I'm ready to launch out and do something, now you're betting on yourself. But because you
mm,
have a track record showing up for yourself, you're going to have that much more confidence. And I can't guarantee you're going to be successful, but at least you
mm,
started. So that's you ask for people you ask about like people who want to like just start. And that's I have
mhm,
I have the formula on how to start, but I can't tell you how to be successful. That's something you have to figure
mm.
out.
Yeah, that's true, Aja. And you just have to do something. Just do something.
Agreed.
It
Agreed.
might be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, call and ask about that delinquent account or your credit.
Oh,
Just do
yes.
something. It don't matter. It don't have to be big because over time those small things will add up. I tell people all the time, They might talk about, oh, I just saved $1. They ain't a whole lot, or I did this. But I was like, at the end of the day, it take $1 to make 1,000. So let's not minimize what we're doing in the pursuit of what we want. And so
I
far too
love
often,
that.
I think people
Yeah.
do that. And you make
Just do something.
you reference um, your faith that you have in God. I'm a believer as well, so I got no issue with what you're talking about. But for individuals who might not have that relationship with a
Sure.
God or with God, um, I take that you're talking about just having belief in self.
Yeah.
That you got to believe in you.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I tell people, I was like, to expect somebody else to believe in you, you got to believe in you first. How can I
There you
expect somebody?
go.
How can I expect somebody else to believe in me if I can't believe in me?
There
And
you
so,
go.
literally, that's what you have to do. I see people do things all the time, and some people deal with like imposter syndrome
Yeah.
or being inadequate. But my thing is, if I can see another person do it, I was like,
Yeah.
that mean I can do it. So my
Yeah.
thing is that I got to believe in me. I got to know that, you know what, if I saw somebody else, and the good thing about it, if I can see somebody do it, it's a possibility I can actually reach out to those people. They might be willing to give me the blueprint.
Yeah. There you go.
And
And the
so,
advantage you have as a believer, maybe you don't see anyone in this natural realm, but the Bible is full of stories of people who have done really crazy,
mhm.
wild things. So you have that added benefit of being able to look at those examples too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, also, you, ma'am, are a real estate investing professional, right? So you do have some properties. So I have to ask you this question. Are you able to invest in real estate without taking on debt and continue to grow your wealth? Do you have any tips to anyone who would like to start, investing in real estate if they didn't have, just the knowledge? Like, where should they start off if they want to do that to help with their financial freedom?
All right. I try to give help to the masses, but
Okay.
I do always bring it back to faith because I actually don't know how to do anything apart from faith. Like everything I
Mm.
have literally has been like a gift from God and like revelation from God. So my first real estate acquisition was actually free.
Oh, three. Okay.
And the way that it started was that there are scriptures in the Bible that talk about, why, basically you can get a house and you don't have to pay for it. And I'm like, okay, that's in the Bible. So I,
Mm.
I started meditating on those scriptures and I started to tell everyone, like, I'm going to get a house and I'm not going to have a mortgage. And people will
Mm.
be like, well, how are you going to do that? You guys don't have any money. You're in debt. You're living on one salary. You're a
Mm.
stay-at-home mom. And I'm like, I don't know. People are like, are you going to win the lottery, become a millionaire? I didn't know.
Mm.
And so what ended up happening is that a relative of mine inherited a property in Chicago.
Mm.
And they were like, I'm not going to move to the hood. I don't want to move to the hood. And the appraisals that they would give for a property like that, it was almost not even worth it to try to like clean it up and sell it. You'd get probably pennies on the dollar.
Oh, wow.
So this relative had an issue. They're like, well, I don't really want to sell it for nothing, but I don't want to move there. And they were like, do you want this house? And at
Mm.
first, me and the person I was married to this time, we were like, we don't want to live in the hood either. We live in the suburbs. We're suburbanites.
Mhm.
And then it occurred to us, we were like, well, we've been saying for months and months that we're going to get a house and no mortgage. I'm like, no, that's not what we meant. No, it can't be that. But the more we thought about it, we were like, this actually could work out. And
Mm.
so we accepted the offer. We just had to clean out the house, fix it up some, and we moved into the house with the idea that, if we ever sell it or something, we just split the proceeds with the relative that, gave us the deed to the house or whatever. And so
Okay.
that was my first foray into real estate. I eventually turned that into a short-term rental. And then a few years later, we paid off all the debt. And then not too long after that, I actually had the opportunity to buy a property at auction around the corner from that house for like
Mm.
$12,000. So then we're on our second property with no debt. So I
Mm.
say all that to say, like, for anyone who's like, I want to get into real estate and they're like, I don't have money. Money's not your problem. In fact, money's never a problem. I'm someone, I just finalized divorce, what, like going on like 3.5, 4 years ago. And actually just signed a contract for my fourth property.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I mean, I don't really work, you all. I don't, I don't work. I don't have, and then some people, oh, well, you got a man or something. I have been many years without a relation. I don't really let men come around my kids like that. So I don't have a
Right.
relationship. I don't have that support. I'm not getting some fat alimony or child support, none of that. It's really the favor of God. And again, for those of you who you don't have that, it's not money. There are people who will do alternative buying arrangements, right? You can get 0% down loans, USDA, VA loans. Money is not your problem. All you actually have to do is have a desire for real estate. And actually the last contract I just signed this week, we did owner financing. So I didn't even
Mm.
the person didn't look at my credit. I didn't go to the bank. I didn't do anything. They just wanted a reasonable down payment. They're going to do a 0% loan, and then in a few years, once we show the bank the rents, we'll refi out, get the cash, and or just pay it off or whatever. And when
Mm.
I say we, I say me and my daughter because we're going in together.
Oh, nice.
Um, and Yeah, there are different ways. Like there are definitely different ways to get into real estate. You don't have to have a job. You don't need a credit score.
Mm.
And in fact, I've only gotten one property that I can think of. Yeah, one property with a mortgage, just
Mm.
one. The rest have been I am paying on a property in Dominican Republic. You could put down a deposit and then you actually, as the builder builds like 2 or 3 years, you make payments on the property. So I'll take possession to that debt free as well. And I went in with a partner.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can do partnership. I mean, there are really an infinite number of ways
Mhm.
to get property like non-traditional ways. You don't have to have
Mm.
a credit score and a bank loan. So
Yeah,
hopefully that was helpful.
it was. So basically, you're just saying, it just take creativity and hustle, really,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And if it's okay, I mean, if you guys
Mhm.
go to my website, Principles of Increase, and go to the resources section, I actually have a free ebook and it's 17 creative ways to become like a homeowner or property owner or something like that.
Mm.
So money is not the problem. It that is the last thing. If you find a good deal, money will find
Money will
you.
come.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. My wife and I, we do have we have a small portfolio of rentals, and kind of the thing is that we sit there, and sometimes you just have to get started because the first one is always the hardest one, and then once you get past the first
Yes.
one, you kind of get that you're like, okay, I can do this, and then just kind of goes to two, three, four, to wherever you want to go to. So I completely agree on that. Audrey, I'm going to ask you one more question before we get ready to sign off here. You
Sure.
help individuals in taking control of their time and their money. And so, what are some of the first steps someone should do if they're like, hey, you know what? This is a new concept to me. I've never heard of financial independence. What should I do to start off? Because I'm just basically starting from, I'm a blank sheet of paper. So, how should I start?
Okay, I'm gonna have to promote myself again and plug
It's all
myself
right.
again. For me,
Mhm.
honestly, everything that I'm living now was a vision I created years ago. So I'm a big fan of like vision boards, goal setting,
Okay.
writing out how you want your life to look. So the Bible talks about in Habakkuk chapter 2, write the vision and make it plain. So you
Mhm.
write out your vision. So years ago, I said I would get a condo in Dominican Republic debt free. This was years ago.
Mhm.
I said that, and the opportunity actually came up. I'm like, this is so wild. But if you go to my website again in the resources section, it's another free guide. So it's not even, you don't have to pay for it, but it's called the Designed Life. And what it does is walk you through a series of exercises where you write out the vision that you want for your life. So if
Mhm.
you want to be sipping pina coladas in the middle of the day on the beach while while your real estate portfolio is making money for you, write that vision out, right?
Mhm.
And then from there you'll get more it'll come from being like you'll go from being abstract to being more concrete with goals and objectives and then action steps. But
Mhm.
I would say the first thing is get a vision of what you want your life to look like. There and I think Hosea 4:6 it says, "My people perish for a lack of," or
Lack of
no,
knowledge?
without, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I got to think of the address, but there's a scripture in the Bible that says that without a vision, the people perish. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's it.
Okay.
And so I have to look up where that's found. But the point is, without a vision, you'll say yes to anything. You'll do anything. You'll go anywhere. You'll get strung along
Mhm.
by your employer. Your family members will bait you in the family feuds or whatever.
Mhm.
You'll be swayed by anything. So I would say start with the vision, and then the vision will give you direction. The vision will say, okay, if you want this, first thing you got to do is you got to get a budget girlfriend.
Hmm.
You gotta cut back your lifestyle. You have to get your credit in order so you can buy your first rental property, whatever that looks like for you. Or you got to take a class on investing in the stock market. So start with the vision. And I have a free vision writing guide, The Design Life, on my website under the
Hmm.
research section. And then from there, the vision will speak to you and start to give you guidance. So
Right, actually. So you have to make sure that you need to have it's enough. I've heard of vision board before. So basically, you need to have a picture of where you want to go to. So just take some time, get yourself
it's a
centered,
map. Yep.
and just really do that. And it's interesting. You talk about a vision. My wife before I have two passions. I have personal finance and relationship coaching. So me and my wife have been relationship coaches for over 20 years.
May
And
need to
so
call you. I may need to.
yes, we actually do have a channel as well, relationship coaching with Nick and Adina. But
Okay.
the thing is that when I met my wife, she told me this. I'm trying to remember when this is before we got married. She said, "Hey, she like when I was dating, she was like I was in relationships I didn't like, and so she like what I did. She was like I asked God. She said, I need to know who I want, so that way I can know if I see them." And so she wrote down, and she literally 6 pages front and back of everything she
Ugh,
wanted in a mate.
love
And
it.
what happened is that literally she showed me this paper like after like a year or so after we had been dating. She was like, I want to say this. She was like, I'm not trying to run you off or spook you. She's like, but she's like, I wrote all this stuff down about somebody. And she was like, this is who I want. Now, granted, the thing is
Oh,
that I did not have all that stuff when we got married,
sure.
but eventually I got there. The thing is that she
Yeah.
knew what she was looking for. And so just like you
Yeah.
say, when it comes to our personal finances, what kind of life do we want to have? Do we want to have a life where, on a drop of a dime, we can hear that, hey, your favorite college team is going to the Final Four and you can just go and you don't have to be tied to work and just go there? Or,
Yeah.
so what kind of life do you want? Do you want to be able to give money to the charities that you're passionate about? Do you want to be able to volunteer your time for your church? Any
There
other
you go.
cause? What do you want to do? So write that vision down. So I think that's really, really good advice there. So get the vision. And also I think that will motivate you as an
Hmm.
individual to want to get your house in order. Because you know what? It's like if I can get this stuff down, then I can do that stuff that I really want to do. So definitely I think a vision is extremely important. So Aja, I want to thank you so much for your time today. For our listeners out there, how could they continue to follow you? I know that you've shared your website, but feel free to share that again also with any Instagram or any other type of handles that you have.
Sure. So I am on the World Wide Web
Hmm.
at principlesofincrease.com. I have a bunch of I have a tons of free resources under my resources and partner page, from like helping you get out of debt, investing in real estate, even like prayers to pray for real estate, because prayer was a big part of my real estate journey too. So definitely check that website out in the resource section out. I'm fairly active on Instagram, Principles of Increase, and just a teeny tiny bit active on Twitter at Increase Laws. So
Okay. All right.
that's how you can find me.
Definitely, everybody, I'll put those the information down in the description of this episode. Also, I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank Aja again for her time as well. I'm getting ready to sign off here, but as I always say, my name is Nik Johnson, and I'm going to encourage you to trust the process. Have a great day.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Aja.